What's up, everybody? It's the Bipolar Prophet, and welcome back to Old Ridge Farm in Farming Simulator 15. So you can see, well, first of all, let me say this. You saw on the splash screen right before the intro to this video that today's video is dedicated to the Scottish gaming guy, Grant. What can I say about Grant? I call him the other monkey in the show, you know what I mean, because he is probably my closest gaming friend. You know, we have spent so much time together, playing games and having fun and being irreverent and inappropriate and everything else. Me and Grant are basically like an old and a young version of the same person. You know what I mean? He's an awesome guy, makes great videos, became, my friend and a very close friend. You guys may or may not know this about me, but I don't say the word brother much. A lot of people throw that word around, bro, brother, things like that. I only say it if I absolutely mean it, and it takes on a different connotation for me. It's more than a friend, you know what I mean? It's and Grant has become my brother, you know what I mean? And that's something that I mean from the bottom of my heart. You know, Grant approached me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, do you want to do a multiplayer series with me?" At this time, he had like 15,000 or 10, 12, 13 something thousand subscribers. I had like 8, you know what I mean? 800, not even 800, 8 subscribers. And he was like, yeah, I want to do a multiplayer series with you. And of course, once I got over my, oh my God, big YouTuber wants to do a, multiplayer series with me kind of deal, we settled in. We did, we've played hundreds of hours of games. All that stuff's up on my channel, and he's a really good friend of mine. We've taken a pretty extended break now because he's busy. He's an 18-year-old kid, basically, right? Not basically, he is. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a job. He's got a real life. But don't worry, there's going to be lots of stuff from us coming down the road. And I wanted to make sure that, I gave him just a gigantic shout out because although TCGG Rob inspired me, and there would be no Bipolar Prophet Gaming without TCGG Rob, Bipolar Prophet Gaming would not be what it is today without the Scottish gaming guy, without Grant. And if you're one of the 8 people on the planet who haven't already gone and checked Grant's channel out, the Scottish gaming guy on YouTube, make sure you click the link in the video description. You'll be glad you did. All right. So anyway, as you can see, it's pretty much the same time as it was when you guys left. I took a little bit of a break. Did a couple of rows, up and down on my own just to check my turning circle and all that. Seems to be pretty good. So let's get these sugar beets harvested and move on to something else. Now, I don't know if we're going to move on to anything else in this episode, but I'm really going to try to get this done in this episode. So let's go ahead and hop in the ropa. Gonna light as soon as I find my lighter. Gonna light a cigarette here. Mike and Cuthbert and the Major. Hope you guys don't mind if I smoke in this, but it's a long day. So one thing I did want to do, I wanted to check because I forgot to do this. I wanted to check. So the weather today is only going to be 14 Celsius, which isn't awful. Tomorrow is going to be 27, which is not great. So we need to get this done today. Obviously, I shouldn't have any issue with that. And preferably before the rain, because that 27 Celsius right there, that's going to be an issue for the sugar beets. As I said in the last episode, sugar beets like to be harvested at a pretty narrow window. Oh, I gotta make sure I'm on the right thing before I turn it on. A pretty narrow window of temperature. So 27 is way too hot. Oh, turn off the brake. Can we go now? Can we go now? Why aren't we going? Oh. There we go. Jeez. I take a break for 10 minutes and I forget how to drive it, so. Yeah, so hopefully what I'm hoping is going to happen in this episode is we're going to get this done, and then I can miss a whole bunch there, as you can see. I will be able to go and move on to probably the soy harvest, and then the barley, and then, it'll probably be 2 more days before the wheat all comes up, and then probably 2 days after that before the barley comes up. So it's going to be a busy time here in Old Ridge, as you would expect during harvest. It's always busy, so I'm going to get a little bit of lag. Not much I can do about that, or in this case, a lot of lag. It's just one of those things with this thing. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of scripts, a lot of animation, a lot of joints. Real Terrain is doing its thing, and so lots of stuff going on, but it's not unmanageable, so we'll live with it. I think it'll be better once I can turn the lights off, but it's going to be pretty dark today regardless, just for the simple fact that it's going to rain at some point. So I will say the yield is not awful on this. It's better than I expected, really. This is sort of the first indication of how maybe the overall yield is going to be for the farm. I don't know how. I don't know if soil mod makes any differentiation. Is that even a word? Between sugar beets, potatoes, wheat, barley, soybeans, whatever else you have planted, or if it's just sort of a general thing that depending on your soil condition, all crops do the same. But if all the grain crops do as well as these sugar beets are doing, I'll be pretty happy with that. The British Sugar Beet Collection Point is open now. They usually open right around probably a day or two before they figure everybody's going to start harvesting. Because most people are bringing them in by the loads. British Sugar pretty much buys everybody's sugar beets in the area. So with some exceptions, but. So they opened up a couple days ago to get everything set up, to get all the machinery maintained and make sure it's running right and everything. So when we start bringing in, hundreds and thousands of tons of sugar beets, that they're ready to accept them. So maybe, hopefully, by the end of my grain harvest, before the wheat and everything comes up, I can bring my sugar beets down to BSC, get paid for them, and be done with sugar beets for a year. And then definitely next season, I want to plant more sugar beets, probably more than one field of them, Or if I pick up another big field, at least a big field of sugar beets. Got to make it worth it. I'm curious to see what the prices are going to be. The prices are not, sugar beets are kind of different than grain. Sugar beets are not really set prices too far ahead of time because a lot of factors sort of determine what the price is going to be. Sugar content, obviously. Sugar content is definitely affected by moisture. I already know that the sugar content of these beets is going to be lower than they would be on, say normal weather pattern years. But hopefully it won't be so bad that, that the price is, dropped down to nothing. Because this is an expensive process. This is an expensive piece of machinery. It's an expense, it's an expense to plant this stuff. Sugar beet seeds are not cheap. Or sugar beet, shoots, I should say, are not cheap. So, it's an expensive process, and I need to make as much of the money back as I can. I did just install some new video drivers too, and they may not be 100% configured correctly, so that could be one reason why there's a little bit of lag. Also, as you guys know, I have to run Raptor to record. I have to run Audacity to record my my audio, my commentary. There's only so much memory, that I have on the computer. So, and it, all this stuff uses quite a bit of it. So, it is what it is. It's a process. And when it has to render a lot of, reflections and shadows and things, my little Abacus here tends to work pretty hard. So I'm sort of now rescheduling what I'm going to do with Abacus 2.0. As you guys know, I've talked about this 100 times, about wanting to build a new computer. I've decided that I'm going to build one instead of buying or leasing or renting to own or whatever you want to call it, the one that I was talking about before, because it's a significant price difference. The only difference is that I don't have the money up front to buy all the parts to build it. So I'm going to have to save it, and it's going to take quite a while, but I think in the long run it'll be better. It'll save me quite a bit of money, and I'll get a system that has only the things on it that I absolutely want. No bloatware, no nonsense on it, that I don't need or any of that. So I'm shooting for maybe February, March-ish, around there, to have the money saved up and to get it built and everything. So hopefully by early next year we'll have some higher quality and maybe more consistent quality videos on the channel. My biggest thing is really for things like iRacing and Project Cars and stuff like that. Farm Sim is not really so much of an issue, except at night like this, and except when there's a lot of shadows and things going on. But it's really for the other games, for the more graphically intensive games I play. I'd like to put out better quality videos, and again, I'm not apologizing for the quality that I put out now. It's just, I would like to do better, so. And as soon as I have the money, hopefully we'll be able to do that, so. It's funny, it seems like it takes longer to go up and down than it does to go round and round, and that's probably because of the shape of this field, Each one of these rows is not, symmetrical. They're not exactly the same length. So some are longer, some are shorter, because of the way the headlands were cut in the shape of the field. So, it is what it is. So I want to thank everybody for all the great comments you guys have been leaving on all these videos. And I want to welcome the new viewers to the channel. All of you guys. We're up to 2,051 subscribers now, which is, again, it still amazes me, that there are people out there who want to watch this stuff. I do this, as I've said, numerous times, for fun. I don't make a tiny little bit of money off of it, and I certainly don't do it for that, because if I did it for that, I wouldn't play Farm Sim. I do it because I love doing it, because I enjoy it, because it's fun. I like the process. I like playing the games. I like talking to you guys. I like the interaction with you guys. And it's awesome that there are still people out there who find me by however whatever means, whether I end up on a recommended list or whether you're just searching Farm Sim and there I am or whatever. And welcome, and I hope you guys enjoy your stay, and feel free to get active and comment and like stuff and offer me suggestions, offer me tips, whatever you guys want to talk about. I don't take anything personal, even the trolley stuff I don't take personal. You know what I mean? It's all fun to me. So whatever you guys want to leave me, I'm more than welcome to read it. I'm more than happy to read it, I should say, and you're more than welcome to leave it. So questions. You guys got questions about Farm Sim, about maybe, hey, I downloaded this and it doesn't work, or, I've been trying to do this and I can't quite figure it out or whatever. And if it's something that I know anything about, I will be more than glad to help you guys out, Obviously, driving a sugar beet harvester, I probably can't help you with, because I'm making a huge mess now, so I'm just missing whole bits in the end there. If I would have just, looked out the window once in a while, I'd probably be a lot better. Oh, one thing I did want to point out, as you could probably see, I was curious to see whether this thing got dirty or not. It does. As you can see, it's getting dirty, and it's getting dirty in a pretty realistic way too. The more I use this thing, the more I like it. So I'm a super fan of this Ropa. I was a big fan of it in Farming Simulator 13. I'm a big fan of it now, and I'm just really glad that this thing has made the trip through the several generations of Farm Sim games that this has been in. So easily, probably my favorite piece of equipment, even though it's not one you use all the time. A sugar beet harvester you use, once a year, I guess. After that, it kind of sits, but it's still fun to use, and I think, I think that's part of its charm, is that it's not a everyday kind of thing. All right, let's see if we can maybe not make quite so much of a mess now. Yeah. Or we could just, now it turns too good. Before it wasn't turning good enough, now it turns too good, so. I do believe real terrain is having some sort of effect on the steering. You got to realize there's a ton of joints on this thing, a ton of moving bits between the header, between the wheels, between all the drive shafts, between, and all the, moving parts and all that. And real terrain, reads all that, takes that into account. It makes everything sort of flex and, and all that. So, the steering may be affected by that, but it's not awful, so I can certainly live with it. One thing I wanted to show you guys that I didn't show you before, if I stop, let me just stop real quick. One cool feature about this thing is, and I don't know if I have to be on the actual, can you do this? Can you do this with this version? I know you used to be able to lean forward. Did I open a door? Did I open a door here? Oh, I did. What was that? Key 5? Key 5. Oh, because of Auto Combine. I get it. I was using Auto Combine for a minute just to see if it worked. There used to be a way to lean forward on this thing. I don't know if you still can. Oh, it's left Alt now. Oh, very cool. So if you look down here, you can see we can actually lean forward and look out over the header. It's just is it useful? I don't know. Maybe. It is cool, especially if you're wanting to see what's going on down there. Cool for videos, I guess. This thing is just, got so many features. It's just so neat. It's hard not to like it. Oh, again. And this is very, G button dependent, G key dependent. You have to be on the right part of the tractor for stuff to work and everything, which is cool. It's just sometimes you forget. All right, let's clean up my mess here, first of all. Let's clean up my mess, because that's just going to annoy me. I can't be leaving sugar beets in the ground. Every one of these sugar beets is like, a dime in the ground, a 10-cent piece on the ground, So, can't have that. Although, driving across the field, like this is not particularly wonderful for soil compaction, but oh well. I'd still like to see some soil compaction as a real thing. And I don't know, and again, I've said this before, in other videos, I don't know what all would be entailed with that. I don't know if it's something that could be added to maybe soil mod, because it seems to me, and I am far from the expert, obviously, but it seems to me that could just be another parameter, you know what I mean? Soil mod, reads certain things and makes, determinations based on certain things. So I don't know that it would be all that much more difficult to add some soil compaction. And it could be, it doesn't have to be maybe a super mathematical, scientific thing. It could be something fairly random, like, obviously the game knows where you're driving over the field because it leaves tracks. So maybe it could be attached to those tracks, and it could be some way to make it permanent instead of temporary like the tracks are. Because as you guys know, the dirt tracks disappear after a while. Maybe it could be tied into that somehow. That the game knows you're running over this part of the field, so we're going to say that this part of the field is 35% compacted. You know what I mean? Whereas the parts of the field that you haven't run over are, just by natural sort of rain and osmosis and all that, and things sucking down through the soil. That part of the the field that you haven't driven on could be 15% compacted. Something like that. And then have a way for that compaction. Much like soil mod, where if you add fertilizer or you add lime and it changes parameters in the field, if you plow your fields or if you cultivate them, deep cultivate them, shallow cultivate them, whatever, there could be a way that the mod knows that and adjust the compaction parameters accordingly. I just think that'd be really cool. If I knew anything about that sort of stuff, I would probably take a swing at it, but I am not a modder by any means. I certainly don't understand all the scripting that would probably be involved in that, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be a visual thing either, because soil compaction is not something, at least in my experience, that you see so much. Obviously, when a big piece like this, you can see the tracks. A big piece of machinery like this runs over a field. It's going to leave indentations and stuff. And I know that because Giants has already announced that they're not going to a new graphics engine for Farming Simulator 17, that dynamic terrain and all that is probably not going to be a thing for Farm Sim. And I'm okay with that. I get why they don't maybe want to do that, because it's a whole other set of scripts. It's a whole other set of, rendering things. And for people with lower end PCs like myself, it could be an issue. It wouldn't be particularly optimized for lower end PCs. Although I will say this, most games nowadays, the days of playing, any modern game on Windows 7, in 32-bit mode are pretty much going out the window. You're gonna need game, technology and computer technology has advanced so much that you're gonna need a pretty good PC to play any new games now. This game included. So, but getting back to soil compaction, I don't think, like I said, it doesn't have to be, a visual thing. It could just be, like. Soil mod, obviously has textures that it applies when you spray fertilizer and lime and manure and slurry and all that sort of stuff. But I think for soil compaction, it could just be a number that maybe sits, on the top of the soil mod HUD, and tells you this part of the field is X amount, percent compacted, with 100 being awful and 0 being best, right? It would probably never be at those extremes. It would probably always be somewhere in the middle, in the middle low to the middle high range. That would be the way that I would see it working the best, And then of course, and this would have to be tied into soil mod, but if you didn't do anything about it, say you didn't plow, say you didn't cultivate, say you just direct drilled something, into the ground that was, say, 50% compacted, which is high, but say it was, then you would see a yield decrease because of that. You know what I mean? Same with soil mod. The way if you don't fertilize your fields correctly, if you don't keep your soil moisture up, if you don't keep your pH levels up, your yield is affected by that. And again, is that something that that everybody's going to want to deal with? No. There are the core group of people who play this game who would love this to be a true, full-on simulator. And then there are a whole bunch of people who just want to drive tractors, just want to, plow a field, just want to harvest stuff, just want to have a play about, and that's great too, you know what I mean? And I think that's why making it a mod, or at the very least, if Giants was thinking about something like this, making it, toggleable, where you could say, okay, well, that's really cool, but I don't want to deal with it, so I'm going to turn it off, And making it toggleable by map would be outstanding. where you could say, well, okay, well, on this map I want it, but on that map I don't. Things like that. I think that would be really cool. And again, that's just, another one of my, mod ideas. Great for ideas, not so great for execution. "20 minutes. How much of this field do we have left? I swear this field is not this big. It just feels like we haven't moved off this hedge at all. It's really not that much more to go, but it's enough that it seems like it's taken a very long time. So obviously nothing has happened in Old Ridge since the last time you guys were here, because it was only 20 minutes ago or whatever. In real life it's been about 4 days, but for me it's been for the story it's been about 20 minutes. So nothing really much has happened. So that's why there's not a lot of talk about the storyline. Obviously this is a very busy time now, as I've said. We're all harvesting something pretty much. Gonna be a lot of tractors whizzing up and down the road, going from field to field and going to sell our stuff and all that. So it's gonna be a busy time. Gonna be a lot of fun. Not a lot of people going to the pub at night. We're up very early. We're out late. We're all tired. We go to bed and we get up, and so harvest time tends to be. It's funny because the pub will run they'll run like a dinner. At say 7 o'clock at night. Pretty much every night during harvest. And it's different every night. It might be stew, it might be a roast, it might be, fish, it might be, some kind of soup or whatever. And they run a dinner every night, and they put on a big spread, for us farmers who just don't have time to go home and cook, because it's pretty much all hands on deck for a lot of these farms. Most of these farms are family farms, so everybody's working on the farms, wives, kids, everybody. So there's not a lot of time to cook and stuff. So the pub puts on a little dinner for us every night, which is great. It doesn't cost very much. I think it cost. What we have last night? We had some kind of stew, lamb stew, I believe. I'm not sure where the lambs came from. They could have come from Mike, actually. I'm not 100% certain, but they were good anyway. It was really good. And I think so. You got lamb stew. You got the big those crusty loaves of bread that they bake down there at the pub. That they're kind of known for, a couple of beers, I think the whole thing cost £6-7, I think, so it was great, like $10 American. It was, it was perfect. Filled me up, and I was like, I think I had one beer while I was waiting for the meal to come, and then I had another one during the meal, and by the time I was done with the meal, I was pretty much sound asleep at the table. I was so tired, but so that's a cool thing that they do, And another cool thing that goes on around here, and you see this in America. I was a little surprised to see it in the UK. Is that the stores in the area open earlier and stay open later. Especially the fuel, like our one gas station here in Old Ridge. I know that place has been pretty much open 24 hours a day for the last couple of days, and probably will be all the way through the harvest. I have my fuel delivered, but say I needed fuel for my Unimog or something like that. And I just happened to be in the area and I wanted to stop. It's a little inconvenient when you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, to go to work, and you don't stop working till say 9, 10 o'clock at night, and the stores are closed. So I know the convenience store in town is open, from like 2 o'clock in the morning till midnight, pretty much. The pub is pretty much open all the time now. I know they're doing a full breakfast now again. They only do that during harvest because obviously I don't really eat breakfast, but they're doing a full breakfast. Starts at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not just the farmers who are putting in the long hours and the hard work. It's the community that supports us too. That feeds us and keeps stuff open and and all that. And I for one am greatly appreciative of that. So I know church participation or church attendance is a little low during harvest, because once you start harvesting, you don't stop. You go, 7 days a week, pretty much 20 hours a day until it's done. Such is modern farming. You used to be able to go, 10, 11 hours a day, and then stop and then go back the next day and, hit it again. But now with the way things are and with the way, prices are, and sometimes if you're a cash farmer, sometimes prices can change by the minute. You know what I mean? So you don't have time to really dally around anymore. It's a constant. Be out there, be harvesting, be work in your fields, do stuff. So, you don't have time to do some of the things that you would normally do. What I may do, and I'm thinking about this, and I don't know. Obviously I have friends in America, being that's where I'm from. And I have, my friend that owns the gigantic farm, or co-owns the gigantic farm, I should say, has, we talk a bunch, and, he said, hey, listen, once you're done with your harvest and everything, can you maybe come over here, and first of all, hang out, because we haven't seen each other in a couple of years. Second of all, can you help me out maybe doing some of the, winter cultivation and all that stuff? And I'm thinking about doing it, wouldn't cost me much, but other than a, plane ticket, so I can fly out there, and he'll pick me up, and, and I'll stay at his house and all that. And it would be fun, it'd be neat to go back to America. I haven't been there in a long time, so. Yeah, don't ask me what I'm doing now. I just decided that, okay, I've had enough of going up and down. I'm going to go around and around now, I guess. BP. Farming the way you feel like it, I guess. I was looking at this thing before. It has a speed, which is 5.6. The RPMs, which is 1980 at the moment. It has a hectare counter, which is 1.2. Obviously, this field is not very big, so. And while I'm looking at this, I'm missing a whole row of beets. I don't think it has a counter to tell me how many beets are in the tank, though. Nope, not on that. I mean, not that I need it, but it would be neat to have, I think. %63. 63. I think what I'm going to do is this. We're 26 minutes in, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to let this fill up again, obviously. I'm going to lift the front end of that first. And then we'll just keep going here, and then when this is full, I will say, call this an episode once again. And I will finish, if it's not finished by that time, I will finish it off screen. And then in the next episode, we'll be on the soy, because that really needs to get done. And probably in between there, there'll be some animal feeding and things like that. Of course, this is all probably going to happen in the same game day, so whether or not I get all the harvest done in the same game day or not, probably, because again, I don't have very big fields, so it's not going to take days and days and days to harvest. Probably get it all done in one game day, which would be good, I think. And then we can go on to the winter stuff. I did install the new alfalfa textures just to see if that maybe cuts down on the lag or not. They're supposed to be slightly lower res. The ones that were installed in the map originally are great, but they just caused me a lot of lag. So I'm just curious to see if these new ones, and these are from Gene Borg, as the soil mod textures are, I think most of the textures on this map are actually his to begin with. So, you certainly can't go wrong with them. They're awesome. No, just go up and down on this side of the field. Why not? Just because this is a different side of the field, so. Let's see. If I switch back to this, and nope, it's left alt. Silly, left alt. Lean forward. Oh, I mean, you can't really see much, with this particular camera angle, but I need one hand on the steering wheel, so. It's going to take a long time to get light, though. That's one thing, one issue we're going to have, because it's going to be cloudy. So, and then when it does start to get light, we're going to get that haze. But okay, well, whatever. I mean, this thing has got more than enough lights on it. It's got a ton of lights on it, and they're really, really bright. So I don't have any problem seeing whatsoever. I'm just hoping this forecast stays true, and that we, that the rain comes later this afternoon, because I'm pretty sure I can get this field done before that, and if I have to wait a day to do the barley and the soy, so be it, as long as it's not more than one day, because otherwise the stuff's going to wither on me. Rain will rot a crop in a big hurry, as I'm sure you guys are aware, and I cannot afford that. I could probably survive, maybe, because I was sort of almost counting on the barley being unharvestable, luckily I got very lucky with that, but I cannot survive more than one crop going on me, that'd just kill me. I wouldn't be able to make my bank payments and and all that, and that would be the end of that. So I'm into the bank for quite a bit of money, with the new tractors and with the loan for this, and with the overall loan for the farm itself, and and all that. So, I'll be curious to see how the environmental payments and how the the dynamic, not the dynamic, but the crop. What's the word? What's the? I always forget what this one is. It's the payment you get for crop diversification payment. That's it. The payment you get for planting, multiple kinds of crops. There you go, BP. Just hunt down those last few sugar beets. It's very important. I'm on the wrong thing again. Jeez. One cool thing about this thing, and I remember this from Farming Simulator 13, and I would imagine it still works in Farming Simulator 15, is that the windshield wiper works. And this is a big windshield, and it's a big windshield wiper, and it's kind of cool to watch it, kind of work its way across this big windshield in the rain. But to be honest, I could live without that, just so that I get this done without too much rain. This being my first year of doing sugar beets here in Old Ridge, I'm curious, if we get back into a normal weather pattern for next year, over the winter we get a lot of snow and a lot of moisture. I would prefer, to be honest, if we could get a foot of snow, that could sit on top of all these fields, that would be great, because then it would melt in slowly and, absorb in and do what it's supposed to do. If we get a lot of rain, before winter fully sets in, that'd be okay too. I'd be curious to see what the yield is going to be like on a good field, on a field with, the proper amount of soil moisture and everything. Obviously, that would raise the sugar content of the beets, which, it increases the quality, which increases the price. So, all good things in the end. Starting to lose my voice. I've been doing a lot of talking lately. Today is actually Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving. Belated, or late, not late, but happy Thanksgiving anyway to all my American friends, to everybody, who's either American or expat American or American living abroad or whatever. Happy Thanksgiving. And to everybody who doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving in the rest of the world, happy Thursday, I guess. You guys will see this on Friday. Again, I sat down and I said, you know what, gonna make a video. Don't know what it's going to be. It should be Savnoska, but you know what? I don't know what it is. Again, I'm so into Old Ridge that it's hard for me to play other maps now. But I am going to be doing some Sosnovka in the coming days. Also some ETS in the coming days. Some iRacing in the coming days, and some Project Cars in the coming days. It's going to be a video pretty much every day for the next probably week. So I want to get a bunch of them recorded and get them edited and rendered up and everything, so you guys have something to watch. I know it's getting to be a busy time now. Tomorrow being Black Friday, where everybody goes nuts, goes shopping at midnight or whatever. I know there are stores here in America, and I'm sure it's like this in other parts of the world too, that are actually open tonight. Obviously in other parts of the world don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It wouldn't make any difference, right? But in America, it's kind of a big deal. The stores are open on Thanksgiving night. Just to get that extra, dollars from people that want to go shopping tonight, and then of course the ones that don't open tonight will be open at some ridiculous hour in the morning. In real life, I've worked at retail. In retail once in my life, I worked for a giant retailer that I'm not going to mention in a video. I think you guys can probably figure it out. Biggest retailer in the world. That should be a clue. And I worked, what I did was I unloaded the trucks. Not me, myself, obviously, but I worked on the crew that unloaded the trucks. Now, I worked there for 4 years, 2 years one time, 2 years another time. And let me tell you, you want to talk about a miserable job. The next time you go into one of these this giant retailer, you know what I mean, and you see one of these guys pulling a pallet jack, or putting stuff up on the shelves, go over and say thank you. I know it seems silly, but you cannot fathom how difficult that job is, especially around Christmas time. The first time I worked for Walmart, it was just a temporary job. I was just looking for something to do, for a couple months in the winter. I started in October, and we immediately started getting Christmas stuff. Around the week before Thanksgiving, the trucks started coming in, where we would, on a normal night, you would get 2 a night. They started coming in 3, 4, 5 a night, you know what I mean? All with, 22, 25, 27, 3,000, 4,000 pieces of freight on them, all have to be unloaded by hand. 2 guys in a truck throwing boxes on a roller conveyor thing, pushing them down. A whole bunch of other guys taking them off the conveyor, putting them on pallets, sorting them by departments and all that. It is a very hard and thankless job. That retailer is a miserable place to work for. They do not care about you. They don't care, that you can't physically unload 7 trucks in a 10-hour shift. You know what I mean? They don't care. They want it done. And those guys work really hard to bring you your TVs, your totes, your clothes, your shoes, your peanut butter, all that stuff. And I think, especially around this time of year, it'd be nice to give them a big thank you. I don't know where that all came from, that whole tangent came from, but I guess Black Friday, right? Black Friday. It is what it is, so. %, full. Gonna be a few minutes yet before we're full, so that's okay. God, how do I miss that much? I don't understand. I try to keep the header right in the middle of the beats. You know what I mean? This has got, I think this is, I don't know if it's 5 meters, something like that, worth of working with on it, but I always seem to miss. I miss like the last half a meter or whatever. I'm not really sure why I do that. So it looks like we're going to easily get 80 tons of beats off of this field. So that's going to be good. I would like to get more. I don't know. Again, realistically, for real life sugar beet farmers, you'd get 80 tons in a quarter of a field. But for the size of this field, I think that's going to be pretty good. So if we get 100 tons, that'd be even better. I'd be much happier with that. Because every ton is more money. So, and that's exactly how I'm missing stuff too, is by coming in at that angle instead of backing up and and turning around and doing it like a real sugar beet harvester would do. I wonder if just for, and no, I'm not going to use Auto Combine. I just want to turn it off. I wonder, will this thing work with a regular hired worker? Let's find out. That way we get, see, now it's over 80%, so it's going to be looking to dump the pipe. Obviously, it won't dump by itself, but at least now we can kind of sort of look at it, right? Kind of, sort of. We can sort of watch it go and, and do all its thing. I mean, again, you can see the amount of, articulation, amount of joints, amount of animation and everything on this thing. I mean, this thing is just ridiculously cool. You can also see it's 5:07 here, and the sun is starting to come up. You won't see much of the sun. You get kind of a break there over the clouds, but then if you look over here, it's just dead overcast. So now will it back up? Oh, it will. Excellent. Yep, starting to get dirty. As you would expect, these things are this puts up a lot of dust, kicks up a lot of mud and whatnot. So very, very cool indeed. A hired worker will probably do a much better job of this than I will. So, and this way we can watch it. So I wonder. So we have this much of the field left. So easily, what did we say? 40 tons this holds, right? So easily 80 tons. Maybe 90, maybe 100. Boy, if we get 100, that'd be awesome. I'd be really, really happy with that. I don't know if you guys do this, but I tend to look at like the meter there that's showing me the yield. Excuse me. And I'm like, okay, so it's not going up by ones. You know what I mean? I like it when it goes up by multiples. 4, 6, 8 at a time or whatever. Because when it goes up by ones, it's sort of an indication to me that the yield is not going to be fantastic. Now, obviously, there's going to be some rotation of crops after this harvest. I've been planting barley over there in field 1 for 3 years now, and I need to get it on some other field. I may put barley on this field, depending on. And again, it's early to be thinking about that. Obviously, we're not even through this harvest yet, but it's it's something to think about, to start thinking about anyway, to get ready for the next harvest, or to get ready for the next season. But maybe barley over here, maybe sugar beets over there on field 11, north and south in this case. Potatoes on field 1 because it's a good sized field. So, it's stuff like that you want to think about sort of ahead of time. so you have a plan going in. You know who's really good at that? Mike is really, really good at that. Mike is really good at planning his rotations. You know, he's got a schedule and everything else. I tend to be a little bit more fly by wire with that stuff. Well, fly by night, or not fly by night, but what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Less planned out, I guess, is the phrase I'm looking for with that sort of stuff. You know, one thing I did not get to do this year, and you can tell by looking around the farm, I did not get to mowing the sort of ancillary grass that's around the farm, the main farmyard, around the house and everything. I really wanted to get to that, and I didn't get to it. I was too busy. Maybe before the snow hits, we can mow that up a little bit. So I do want to have an open day. I want you probably can't see them, but this thing draws a crowd. There are people kind of hanging out over sort of to the left there, the hedge, in fact, I had so many people that I had to tell them to park somewhere else besides in the road and not in my farmyard. I had a bunch of cars parked sort of in that open area over there in my farmyard, which is fine normally, but I need to move equipment in and out of there, and move it around, turn it around, stuff like that. So I was like, can you guys go park somewhere else? So a lot of them ended up parking up at the church parking lot. Church seemed to be good with it, so I would like to have an open day where people can come down and look at the equipment and look at the animals and all that. Everybody kind of rotates through that. In the area anyway. So, anything that will promote interest in farming, I think is a good thing. Anything that gets people wanting to farm. We need more farmers, there's just not enough of us. The world is not getting any smaller. The population is not getting any smaller, you know what I mean? And everybody needs to eat, so. And it all starts, here with farmers, so. You want to put sugar in your coffee, you know what I mean? You want to put milk in your coffee. Well, need dairy farmers, I really hope the milk thing gets sorted out this coming year. I know there's been a lot of sort of rumblings about it and a lot of talk about it, about we're gonna fix the milk prices. All the big milk retailers are gonna get on board, and and we're gonna pay you guys a fair price for it and everything. I really hope that happens, because again, dairy farming is a tradition. It's been around for thousands of years. It would be sad to see it go, or not so much go, but it would be sad to see it turn into some sort of corporate, massive factory farming, thing. I think there's something very pretty and very elegant about driving down a country road and having, cows in a meadow somewhere, doing their thing. I would hate to see it where everything's non-pastured. They're on big rotaries and, they live in a shed and all that. And I get it, and it's efficiency and it's disease control and all that sort of thing, but it's just not for me. I like to keep my cows outside, for as long as I possibly can. And, my cow barn is not great. I basically just tarp it off in the winter. Fill it up with straw and all that. And they come out. They come out during the day, when it's warm and it's not windy and cold, and have some silage and whatnot, But for the most of the time they're outside, because that's where they're happiest, And I think a happy cow is a healthy cow, and a healthy cow makes good milk, and good butter and good cheese and all that. So. %. All right, very good. Sun will be up before too long. It'll be bright for a little while, but as you can see, the clouds are going to move across the sky, and pretty much completely obscure any sort of sun we're going to have, and then the rain will come. And I'm not complaining about the rain by any means. If it wants to hold off till I get this done, that's awesome. So, because regardless of whether I have stuff ready for harvest or not that can't benefit from the rain at the moment, overall the entire farm could definitely benefit from the rain. So I'm not going to complain, and I hope it rains more than just once. I hope we get, if it doesn't rain every day in a row for 4 or 5 days, it'd be nice if we had a day of rain and then a day of sun and then a day of rain. That pattern would be awesome. So so I'm going to let this fill up, and then I will take it over to the dump point and dump it, and then I will finish this up off screen. And as I said, in the next episode, we're going to jump in the cab here, why not? In the next episode, we will be doing the soy, and then in the episode after that will be barley. And then by that time, some of the wheat should be coming up. and we can get through that. And of course, there's also baling that needs to be done in between there. I pretty much want to bale the barley straw immediately after I harvest because I need the straw anyway. So, and then all the wheat, the wheat straw will be baled as well. So, 1.5 hectares, not a very big field. I'd like to see this thing be a little bit more interactive at some point too. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I don't know how, but you can actually see the date there. The start date 10/25/2009. So this has been around for a long time. But okay, it works. So those are all just static numbers, but it'd be cool to see it sort of be an interactive thing at some point. I wish I could read this, but can't quite zoom in on it. So obviously got a radio, get a little camera up there that doesn't work, but or that's probably a GPS actually. That's a Garmin GPS, and then this is a camera, which I don't believe works in this version of it. It did work in the Farming Simulator 13 version. This is some kind of chart over here, and then you have your sort of iPod connectivity there as well. So all very, very cool. All right, we're going to be full here in a minute. 46 minutes, and we're still not done with this field. This field has taken quite a long time. A lot longer than I really expected it to take. All right, now I'm going to have to knock that off, I believe. Or, nope. Yes. Did I knock that off? Dismiss worker. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go and empty this. And in fact, this time, I want to do this. How do I do this? Do I do it from here? Is it this one? Yep, it's this one. I want to make sure that the pipe is actually down. Pretty much as low as it'll go. That looks about right. Now we're going to have to make a swing here to... I was going to put down another placeable pile, because in real life you see, obviously they don't just dump the sugar beets into one gigantic pile. They're basically in rows down the wherever they dump them. But in this case, it's fine. I may put down another one just for realism's sake. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Let's be realistic. The placeable piles don't cost any money, so let's be realistic. Let's get another one and put it down. Placeables. Placeable heap. We'll put it right. Can't put it too close, apparently. It doesn't like that. Really? That's as close as I can put it. Huh. Must be because this is the area that it grows to, I guess. Okay, well, that's fine. Whatever. And we will back out of that, and we'll go up here and dump this. And then I'll just get rid of these after this harvest is over with. And it already knows it's over the pile, and there it goes. So I'm a little close. I got to remember where the actual trigger point of these things is. I'm a little close. It's going to kind of build up over the harvester, but that's all right. Because these are the placeable piles without the clip, without the collision, So that would make a pretty good screenshot, I think, huh? What do you guys think? Think that'd make a good screenshot? I think so. Let's go ahead and take that. And no need to sit here and let this empty. You guys have seen this before, and I'll do my outro spiel again. Make sure, if you guys haven't, and I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, go check out Scottish Gaming Guy. Click the link in the video description. Go give him a like. Go give him a subscribe. Makes great videos. And Grant, thank you, my brother. Without you, Bipolar Profit Gaming would just be, I don't know. But it wouldn't be what it is, and I owe that to you, and thank you very much. And thank you to each and every one of you for coming to the channel, for liking, for commenting, for subscribing, for being active members of the community, for messaging me, for the tips, for the friendship, for the suggestions, for everything you guys do for me. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. If you're new to the channel and you saw Farming Simulator 15 Old Ridge Farm, you saw the big roper here, unloading some sugar beets in the thumbnail, and you wanted to check it out, and you like what you see, make sure you click the like button. Also, please subscribe. It's the best way of being notified of when I make a video, which is pretty much every day, and if not, at the very least, every 2 days. And as always, guys, thanks so much for making me a part of your YouTube day, and this is the Bipolar Prophet saying, see you later.